Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. Today we're going to be going over Arik Khan, #1 by A Plus Comics from 1991. It's actually a reprint. But before we get into that, I'd like to show you some of my own work. This is Random Access. It's a full-size, full-color comic. It's black and white for now, but it's going back to full color shortly. And you can get these at patreon.com/Alexander Turbin. I'm up to issue number 27 is going out next month, or this month rather. You can go to patreon.com/Alexander Turbin, or you can go to my website, alexanderturbin.com, and you can get these Random Accesses and Mutandis and The Forlorn and Cyrene and Queller and all kinds of different works that I've done previously in my comic book making career. Here is the last issue that came out of Random Access. The Random Accesses have a backup by Paul Courtjohn and Christopher Knox, so always check that out. So, Arik Khan. So, like I said, it's a reprint apparently, but I don't know, I don't understand why it's just Arik Khan. If anybody knows anything about this book, please let me know because I'm very interested. Apparently, there was two stories or two comics created by, actually it's by Frank Reyes. If anybody knows the correct pronunciation of that, please let me know that too. Apparently, he's a well-known Conan the Barbarian artist. He's one of those fantastic Philippine artists, and he has a great style, a great sword and sorcery style, and you can tell that he just loves the genre, as those Filipino artists apparently did. So like I said, I think this is a reprint of a 70s book. I was reading on, I think it was on my comic shop, their news or their blurb about the book or whatever, that it's a reprint. That I guess all of A Plus Comics is a Canadian publisher, and that they would reprint like war books, a lot of war books, and a lot of fantasy books and stuff. And I guess they had a collection of them or something from the 50s, 60s, and 70s maybe, or 60s and 70s, and they just reprinted them. So I'm very happy that they did. The cover is apparently by Jeff Isherwood, which I love his work. I first noticed his work on Justice from Marvel's New Universe books, and I really did enjoy that stuff, and I really love his stuff here. I think he did some other Conan work as well, so I'd like to maybe delve into his whole body of work and see some of the cool stuff that he's done. The forward, apparently it's dialogues and captions reworked by B.P. Nickel. I don't really know what that means, but Frank Reyes is a Filipino, so maybe he had a language barrier. Maybe he didn't completely get the English language. Possibly. I think I read that he moved to Canada when he was younger, so I don't know about that. So if anybody knows about Frank Reyes, please let us know, because I'm always interested in learning about great artists, and he is in fact a great fantasy artist. And I really I'm gonna go back and look at more sword and sorcery, Conan's Savage Sword of Conan, and see what he did there, how many issues he did and stuff like that. I know that he's in a lot of compilations. But anyway, as always, I get off topic and I start just rambling a little bit about the artists and stuff like that in the background. But I'm going to read the foreword. It's Arik Khan, and he is the main character. Forward. I think that's what the BP. I think that's what BP Nichols actually added this forward. I don't know if they added this, and this is actually Frank Reyes or not. if anybody has the original 2 issues, I think it was 2 issues, and I think it was because this has Arik Khan number 2, and this is 48 pages black and white. So I don't know. This is also has a cover by Jeff. Um, I have no idea why there were only 2 issues. Did he just stop making them? Could he not sell them to Marvel? I don't know. It's pretty weird. I love the cover. I don't love this yellow cover for the color. I just, it's yucky. It's yucky. I wish there was. It's often hard because you get this awesome character fight or whatever, and maybe the artist just didn't finish it or something, but you want to use this awesome art, and so you just use a color black background. But they could have done something better. They could have done. I think a dark tan would have been a lot better than this bright yellow. It just kind of messes up the whole dynamic of the book. And I really don't like it. Let me know if you guys do. I'm going to read this forward because it has a lot to do with the world building of the Arik Khan mythos, I guess. Long, long ago, in the time beyond memory, there were the slave wars. Then it is said an evil lay over the lands of men and women, an evil which was cast down but left catastrophe in its wake. The sky burned and the oceans boiled, as if the gods themselves had joined in the war. In the end, most of humankind lay dead. It took millennia to rebuild. There came the time of wandering, and then the dawning of the kingdoms of light. Of these, there were 7, and the greatest was Bagabul. I don't know if that's right, but to this day, songs are sung late at night in secret gatherings of the wonders of life in that golden age. Then the black sorcerers overthrew 6 of the 7 kingdoms, and the time of the dark kingdoms began. Mighty Fejbilah survived, but had strength only for the defense of its own borders. The reign of the Dark Kingdoms continued uncontested for centuries until the coming of Arik Khan. Apparently, it doesn't say. I wish there was like a Arik Khan here, but it's over here. And then it just starts out Arik Khan in the Crusade. It just starts out with a couple of cool pinups of Arik Khan fighting these creatures. I'm not sure what it has to do with the story, if anything. I think actually this is a setup. This is kind of like Conan sitting at his throne, and it's setting up the world and the universe that he's in. And then I think he's an older, but not completely older version of Arik Khan. And then he just kind of has this memory. He's just walking along. So that's basically what it is. He has this big fight scene with these creatures, and he gets away from them after slaughtering them all or whatever. He sits down, he relaxes, and then he has a memory of what happened, what transpired when he was younger boy, to kind of to see what made him into this great warrior. So he's a young guy, and he goes to a magician or a sorcerer or whatever, because he's looking for help because his mother has been kidnapped. At first, he blusters about saying his father is this and his mother is that, and kind of giving him accolades, trying to get the sorcerer to help him. But the sorcerer doesn't need any of that kind of help. He's gonna help him because Arik Khan, his father helped the sorcerer previously when they knew each other when he was younger, and but also there's another reason. The other reason is that the sorcerer, the evil sorcerer that stole Arik Khan's mother, is Rakaz, and Rakaz is apparently one of these dark sorcerers that overthrew the 6 of the 7 kingdoms. So he overthrew one of the kingdoms. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I'm assuming that Rakaz is one of those evil sorcerers, because why have that introduction if it's not really what took place? But I think that's what happened. So the sorcerer says, I'm going to help you. And he even gives him this awesome samurai blade. And he says, the only condition is for me giving you this is that I want you to bring me the head of Rakaz. And Arik Khan is like, oh, I was going to bring him your head, bring you his head anyway. And so the sorcerer gives him this mighty lizard steed. Reminds me of the one that's in the Star Wars, not the Phantom Menace, the Clone Wars. I think it's the Clone Wars that lizard guy that Obi-Wan rides around when he's fighting um, Darth Grievous. Anyway, and then he's traveling along trying to find Rakaz, and then this evil creature comes out of nowhere and starts to give them a hard time. I'm not entirely sure what happens. I think the lizard creature swats at him or hits him or whatever, and Arik says, "Good boy, Krog. That won't do any great damage, but it will act as a small warning." So I think it was just a little adventure on the way to the adventure kind of thing. He finally makes it his way to where Rakaz is, or where he thinks he is, because I think the lizard he's supposed to put the head of Rakaz in the lizard's satchel, and then he'll return to where this sorcerer is. And I also think that the lizard knows where Rakaz is, so it all kind of ties together, the having the steed and stuff. But then he decides to leave Rakaz because I think that he decides to leave his mount because I think that Rakaz is in the mountains, and that's where his castle is and stuff. So he lets the seed go, and he's just supposed to hang out there, waiting for Arik until he's done with his deed of killing Rakaz and freeing him of his head. So one of the things before, the old sorcerer said something about don't look into Rakaz's eyes because that's where his powers lay, and also the army of Rakaz is an undead army. So Rakaz, the great evil sorcerer, has a host of undead soldiers at his command, and Arik, much like Lord of the Rings, they're apparently this host of not acolytes, but some sort of students or whatever. They're on their way. They're on like a pilgrimage to Rakaz, and apparently they're carrying along some women and some sacrificial women or something like that. So then he's looking back, and then he turns around, and he's being attacked by one of those same undead warriors. So he fights the undead warrior, but then he realizes that the undead warrior is just kind of he's not really the what he wants to fight. He wants to find his way to Rakaz, and he was just a diversion. So he's on a ledge, and these cultists, that's what they are. These cultists are on the way to see Rakaz, and he's on a ledge, and he uses a rope, and he grabs the one of the cultists, and he grabs their robes, and he hides among the cultists. I'm assuming that's what happens because it doesn't really say that's what happens, but it kind of shows it, much like Conan. And then he gets to the temple of Rakaz. So he is dressed like one of the cultists, and he makes his way into the throne room or whatever of Rakaz, and he ditches the cloak and all of the clothing and stuff, and he keeps going through, and he finds his way through the mazes and labyrinth of stuff, and apparently there's like it's like a host of goblins or some sort of evil creatures, and he comes across this samurai warrior. He's hoping that the samurai warrior doesn't notice him, and he just kind of like sneaking by. But the samurai warrior does notice him, and they have this battle. And at first, Arik realizes he can't defeat him because the samurai guy is just like too big and too powerful, too strong. And so he runs. He takes off, and he gets cornered in a little room or a entryway or something like that. And he turns around. And he's like, "I must fight him." And I'm going to look at this, look at the art, but one of the things I really want to point out is the influences of manga or anime on um, Frank Reyes. Look at this. This looks totally like a lone wolf and cub type of thing. And if he's from the Philippines, maybe he has a connection to some of that manga style art, and also he's obviously into the samurai and the Japanese culture and stuff, because I mean he has them. He has Arik has a samurai sword, so he's into this whole samurai culture, and obviously there's some sort of influence from the manga greats. So he fights the samurai, and at first he's thinks he can't beat him, and then he uses some sort of bola. He trips him up and cuts his head off. So then he makes his way further into the temple, and he falls through a trapdoor, and he lands in front of Rakaz, Rakaz is at his throne, and Arik says, "You, yes, Arik Khan, me, ha ha ha, and who's the little Krebik now?" So that's their little slang word for giving him a little bit of a jab or whatever, I guess. Krebik. Nice panel here. It is written super Savage Sword of Conan-y, written super sword sorcery-ish, which I don't feel like it has to be that way. But I will definitely go back when we discuss the writing. We're going to go back and talk about the writing of sword sorcery in general, I think, and of this in particular. So there's more samurai that are attacking Arik, but before that, Rakaz says that he knew that Arik, what he was doing all along, and he's been toying with him, but he's bored, so he's telling all of his trusty samurai to destroy him, kill him. So they all attack him, and Arik Khan runs away. One of the great things, I don't know if I've ever seen Conan run away. I'm not sure that's in him, but he's looking for his mother. He's not even listening to what Rakaz is talking about. He's not listening to him. He's looking around for his mother, because that is the main point of this whole quest, is he wants to find his mother. Eventually, a dark figure comes through, and it is his mother. And his mother has fallen under the trance of Rakaz. And Rakaz tells the mother to kill him. So it's very stressful and exciting. So Arik kind of runs back, and he's like, "I'll kill you," to Rakaz, and then Rakaz starts doing some of his magical mumbo jumbo, casting his spell and looking into his eyes. But Arik knows better. He shields his eyes, but Rakaz takes the advantage because he's not looking, and attacks him. But Arik flips him over and kind of turns it around. But the mother is still trying to attack Arik, and Arik is just running away, trying to get away, and trying to regroup, I think. So then, out of nowhere, he whips out this. He had the bow all along. You could see it on his person all along. He has the bow, so it's really not out of nowhere. But this arrow that has these two pointy things on the ends, he shoots them, and he gets Rakaz in the eyeballs, which is awesome. Why haven't people done that previously? Or even one arrow would have been awesome, but this works even better. Rakaz is blinded. He's telling all of his little slave minions to find Arik and kill him. But Arik has other plans. He jumps down and he attacks Rakaz again, and he kind of slices him and dices him and cuts his head off. He cuts his head off. He keeps the head. He must put it in a satchel. You don't see it, but it must be there because he told the old sorcerer that he was going to give his head to him when he was done with this. Unfortunately, Rakaz said earlier that even though Arik might win, if you think to take your mother alive, you are mistaken. At my death, all of my servants will die. You have already lost, fool. Ha 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 ha. So I'm not sure why. Maybe Arik just didn't believe him, or or he didn't care, but he kills him anyway, which I would have thought that killing Rakaz would have ended the spell. But I would have maybe done something to try to force him to undo the spell, maybe holding him captive or whatever somehow, and forcing him to do it. But that's not what happens. He cuts Rakaz's head off and pulls his mother over his shoulder, and he gets away from there. And she's dead. He's right. Rakaz was right. As soon as he died, all of his minions, all of the people under his control were killed. But maybe because they're undead, maybe the mother was already dead, and there wasn't any way for him to undo that. That is one possibility. I get a no prize, if you guys think so. So anyway, this is when Arik realizes that he has to go on this quest to defeat all of the sorcerers that are plaguing his world, and he lays his mother down, and that's when he makes the vow to never. Oh, mother, I love you so, mother. I will never forgive myself what has happened. I will never forget. Slowly, Arik rises to his feet, eyes glittering with rage. From this day forward, I swear to you, in the name of my mother, I will never rest until the dark kingdoms and their rulers are destroyed. So that must be the next issue. But then it goes back to when Arik Khan had defeated those creatures in the beginning, and he was just having this like little rest and kind of remembering back what happened. And so he goes further along into whatever the land and doing whatever his quest was. There's a cool backup story in this book that I'm not going to go into because the Arik Khan is pretty much awesome as it is. But I kind of want to read this, and it's like got this old feel to it, and I'm not sure who did it. And I'll have to look into some of that stuff. And maybe I'll check out some more of these A+ comics. They seem like they've got some cool stuff. But story wise, it's very simple story. He's out to save his mother. It's very Star Warsy. He goes to visit a wizard and gets some help from him, and then he goes on this quest to defeat the evil sorcerer, and he does. But the mother is dead anyway, so it ends like that. So there really isn't a whole lot of plot. And sword sorcery, it can have a lot of plot. It can have a lot of detailed characters. I think that because I've read a good amount of Conan, Savage Sword of Conan, obviously. And when I started reading comics, that's what I primarily read was Savage Sword of Conan. That's what I read first. I got like maybe 10 issues of that before I started getting into the other comic books. And one of the reasons that I did, I stopped getting Savage Sword of Conan and moved to the other comics was because I was craving a more detailed story. A lot of the Savage Sword of Conan stories are a lot alike, which, I mean, I say that there's really not much you can do with a Savage Sword of Conan kind of thing or a sword and sorcery thing, but that's simply not true. You can do all kinds of things. You can do anything. You can do really anything in a Savage Sword, in a sword and sorcery thing. You've got so many story possibilities. I think it's just that we get, as me included, we get kind of into these tropes. I think sword and sorcery has a lot of tropes, and that you just get entangled in, and you just kind of do your thing. Plus, also, I think a lot of artists and writers, they want to emulate what they love. They want to emulate what has inspired them. So many people were inspired by Savage Sword of Conan, Barry Windsor Smith, this kind of stuff, that they just kind of regurgitate the same old thing, which isn't always, it's not bad either, because you're getting something that you already love. You know what you're getting. You know that you're going to love it. So why change this formula? But you certainly can change the formula and have more intricate stories and more in-depth stories. And really, that's what I would like to do, doing a sword sorcery thing. I'm working on a Crom storyline now that I'm hoping will be a little bit more intricate and in-depth than just going on this quest and killing the bad guy and then saving the princess or whatever. That's very standard story in almost all fantasy and sci-fi and sword and sorcery. So I'd like to see a little bit more variety in the things that are sword and sorcery. Really, I mean, you could call Game of Thrones sword and sorcery, and I would call that sword and sorcery actually, and that is super intricate. So saying that sword and sorcery isn't intricate or can't be intricate is just wrong. It certainly can be, and it's just up to us artists and writers to really delve into as deeply as we can and make it as interesting and diverse. And I'm not even talking about ethnicity diversity. I'm talking about diverse types of stories and things going on in the whole realm that you're trying to build. Some of that is building the universe, and like this took it built a universe really quick, and I would really like to read more stories about that. And I think sword sorcery is a lot of world building. It has a lot of world building that you kind of have to factor into that. So you have to take a little bit of time and build the world. So the storyline is pretty good. The dialogue, it is pretty good, but it's very standard. It's very standard sword and sorcery tropes. One of the things that I'm not entirely sure if I like, and all other comic book artists particularly, please let me know, or writers and artists, what you think about this. If you got a scene and you're showing something happening, should you say what's happening? I'm not sure that if this was put in by this BP Nickel or not, but like a lot of the things, like there's only time for his death. That is, that's something different. But then staggered, Rakaz tears the arrow from his eyes. Now, do you need that? Is in the comic book creation process. I try to show and not tell, but you want to add some of that interesting storytelling, maybe just to make it a little bit more interesting. But you could have written that to be more interesting. And there's so many times in this, Arik knows. He stands little chance. Well, that's pretty necessary. But there's so many like this. Arik is halted. It's just stating what is happening instead of showing what is happening. And like Arik runs for his life. You can obviously see that he's running. Do we need this Arik runs for his life text when we have the illustration of him running for his life? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I kind of think that we don't need that kind of stuff, and that space would have been a little bit used better in this for maybe like the dark entrance way was looming, or something a little bit more interesting, kind of like more Frank Miller's. Because Frank Miller's is great at doing that, adding all kinds of senses. He'll add a little bit of a music, a soundtrack, like this is playing in the background, or the glistening rocks, or some kind of depth that you can't have with the illustration, but you can have with the writing. So I'm just wondering what you guys think about that. Please let me know. But I mean, Frank Reyes, his art, what can be said about that? He's a beautiful artist. His line work is so intricate and so flowing. That is probably the key word to this. I mean, anybody who is a sword and sorcery fan, that is pretty much what you want. That is Frank Frazetta to its peak. You want the flowing characters, the flowing bodies, the flowing hair, the flowing movement. You want everything to flow as much as you can. This is such a static world. It's such a non-modern, like the buildings aren't, all square and go up, stories and stories. It's lots of rocky ledges and stuff like that. Lots of trees and stuff like that. Excuse me. But it's this beautiful line work, especially, I'm going to zip back here, but I mean, I love this, the action and the movement of his inking. And his inking, I would love to see the pencils before the inks and see how much he uses the guide of the pencils, whether how tight it is. I would be willing to bet that the pencils are not super tight, and that he goes into a lot of inks without it being super tight. But I mean, look at this this closing and the movement. Here's a great movement strand. I often just use a couple lines to use as movement because I am so torn on whether I like movement lines or not, motion lines. But this is a fantastic way of doing it because it almost like whoosh, it's like a wind cutting through the air as he uses his axe. But everything is beautifully rendered. He's got some great, just a great line work. It's so flowing, and the line variety, and everything is also so three-dimensional. It's like all of these modern artists that have so much three-dimensionality to them, and that's great. And also they have a lot of good line work as well. But this just kind of adds that adds them together and puts these dark blacks in the correct ways to do it. And also the panel layouts are they make a lot of sense. They're dynamic. There's not too many of them. I do kind of wish that more of them were like this, where there was one big panel and then a few smaller panels to show the story. But that's just my own personal opinion. As for panel layout, I don't think it has anything really to do with what's right or what's wrong, because it's just personal preference. But like, I do love the different janky panels, and he does that when there's a lot of action and movement and stuff to really kind of move the story along. But then when it kind of slows down or whatever, he reverts back to the regular panel layouts. So there's just so much to say about his artwork. It's just so beautiful, and I definitely want to go back and get some more. I'm going to try to find the other books that he's done, either in Savage Sword or the other Arik Khan books, because this story was very cool. It's like I said, the story is very nominal as far as what's going on and the characters and stuff like that, but it's interesting. It's fun. It's the art really makes it. But the character and stuff, it's fun. Sword sorcery tropes is what it is. So here's what probably my favorite page. This cloud of inking is just phenomenal. It's just so fantastic. Reminds me a lot of Joe Kubert. Just the way his brush just flows around. He's just like, I would bet none of this is penciled. None of this is penciled. This is all just inked. And he's like, I'm going to give this a great light source, and I'm going to make this have some really good depth and texture. This is like this smoky cloud of memory and light and stuff. And it's just, he goes at it with all of this speed and ferocity and technique. It's all balled into one, and I really love it. So I really like this comic a lot, and I'm definitely going to go try to find some more Arik Khan and some more Frank Reyes stuff. I know that there's a lot of Filipino artists that were great at the time, and I'll just go back and kind of look at some more of the Filipino art. But as for a review, I'm going to give this a 9. I'm going to give it a 9. I'm going to give it a 9. The writing isn't a 9, but the art is a 10 almost. I think the art might be a 10. So that makes it maybe the writing is an 8.5, but the art really kind of pulls up the whole comic. And I would definitely get this again, and I would get more comics of Arik Khan, and I'm going to go looking for them. And I really did enjoy it. Let me know what you guys think. If you're new to this channel, this is exactly the kind of stuff that I really like to do. Early black and white indie comics from the 80s, 90s, or any kind of really year, as long as it's cool, it's a little interesting, it's a little different from the normal Marvel, DC kind of stuff. And so if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell, and all of that cool stuff. And more importantly than that, from me, is I really love the comments. I really love comments from you guys, and I try to get back to every comment. If I haven't responded, it's probably because I didn't see it. and I might see it 3 months down the line. For some reason, they have on YouTube, they have these the comments in different places and stuff. But I look for them. I search the comments. I love to hear from you guys, and I love to respond. So if I haven't responded, just let me know. So let me know what you guys think. And thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. And Arik Khan, A+ Comics, for the win. And keep on creating.